Sean, thanks for sitting down with us today. Of course, news broke last week that you're stepping down as CEO. Let's start back in 2020, heart of the COVID-19 pandemic. What were the biggest challenges you faced during that time? And how do you think that overcoming them's gone on to help?
Let me start by saying, Charlie, that I always, when I joined the club, I always said to the board at the time that I'd give 5 years, I'd commit to 5 years of trying to turn around the fortunes of the cricket club. And for me, that time's now come to an end, and I think it's moved on, it's developed. You know, some things we could have done better, some things we could have done worse. It is what it is. But I think now the club is certainly moved forward from where it was, and I'm really proud, and I think people of Leicestershire should be proud of where we are as a club right now. I think when I joined in 2020, literally 2 days before COVID. That was a huge challenge because first thing I had to do was send everybody home. You know, sort of say you've all got to go home, and then I've got to work out how the club kind of went forward from there, really. And in an ironic way, it allowed me and the board and senior people at the club to what I've described as pressing a reset button and actually kind of going, right, let's take stock of who we are, what are we doing wrong, why are we sort of finishing bottom every year, and how do we turn it around? At the end of the day, we're a cricket club, so we're competing cricket matches, so we've got to learn to win cricket matches. So I think, you know, that was step number one, really. And you know, COVID lasted longer than we anticipated. It was effectively about 2 years, really, 2 and a bit years. But COVID gave us that chance. Bizarrely, it just gave us that chance to take that step back and then just reinvent ourselves and actually think, right, where do we go from here? And that, I guess, was the start of the writing of this chapter. So yeah, it's laid the right foundations, I think, that period.
Yeah, you mentioned when you first came in that you had that 5-year plan. What were the key pillars of that plan right from the start? You know, which achievements from that then are you also proudest of looking back on as well?
Yeah, wow, right, okay. I think, you know, we from that point, we had to create an infrastructure that could work for the club. So we looked at what we called the pillars of the club, you know, starting with cricket, because obviously we're a cricket club, so we had to look at the cricket pillar, how it worked. Now, you can't change a cricket pillar overnight. It needed to take a bit of time to get where it needed to. So we tried 1 or 2 things, and some things worked and didn't work. But it was always about sort of 3, 4, 5 years, and the objective was always going to be about creating players, not just for England, but for ourselves, that could win tournaments, and creating a team and an environment that that crossed that white line out there, that then could go on and compete. And that was number one. That was always number one. But then you look at your commercial operation, your infrastructure, HR, you know, your finances, so on and so forth. All the different parts of the business. Community was another element. And it was then trying to create structures that were future-proof, really, in terms of how the business could move forward. And bit by bit, we've kind of evolved them. And if I take, you know, the cricket speaks for itself. Look at us now, top of the division. Won a bit of silverware 2 years ago, 2 players for England. They would probably be, from that perspective, my proudest association with the club. And you've got to give credit to, you know, the players, the Claude, Henderson's as well, Alfonso, you know, Paul Nixon prior to that, all those individuals that have contributed to where we are today. But then you look at things like the community department. When I joined here, the community department was kind of drifting along a little bit, doing certain things. Now we've got a foundation, and getting from that to a proper foundation has been challenging. We've had to employ trustees, members of staff. And I think they're now really poised to make a huge difference to the community of Leicestershire. They've got to work in tandem with the club, of course. So every part of all these different pillars, I could pinpoint and say I'm really proud of. You look at the company pillar, what we've done with the ground. I hear a lot of people say to me, the ground's never looked as good. Brilliant, that's what we want. Now we've got visions to build it further, and those visions have not changed. It's just how you've got to get to that stage, and it's baby steps. They look at the HR, the infrastructure, the training that we've now got in place. All those things that mean this is a professional run sports club. Don't get me wrong, still a lot of work to go, but the foundations are there with the people, the structures of where we're at. And I would say I'd love to be joining the club now and give it 5 years, because I think the next chapter can be really exciting. I've done my bit, got the battle scars. Do you know what? I'd like to have done some things better. I'd have liked a bit of luck in that area or whatever. But it's in a better place, and it's now poised, ready to kick on, really.
You mentioned you're really proud of the academy, especially over the last 5 years. I mean, you look at it now, Ryan Ahmed and Josh Hull, both ECB central contracted players. Yeah. How proud of you to have seen the development of the academy in the last 5 years whilst you've been here? Yeah,
I think when I joined, it was a little bit disjointed. We had a lot of players playing for us, but it didn't feel quite right. And we've worked hard at that with the likes of Jigger Nate, Dips Patel, Paul Johnson, Dave Witt, Ryan, previous physio, Lloyd. I could go on, and all those people have worked hard together to create a very much a Leicestershire way, if you like, a feeling of the club from the point you put on a shirt, whether you're an 11-year-old to whether you're playing out here with the first team. And for me, the results of the hard graft have been the likes of not just Ryan Ahmed or Josh Hall, which is brilliant, 2 England players, but like Sam Wood coming through. We've got Alex Green, 2 great and I know there are a few more coming through, which is really exciting for future years. So I'm immensely proud of where they've come from and what's coming out of that department. But let's not forget the women's side as well. That's an exciting position where that's just starting their journey. And I know we've got a win under our belts now, which is brilliant. And I think that will go on and do great things. So as a cricket department, really strong, really powerful. They're all based in the lower meet. They're all together. Previously, we were here, there and everywhere. So that there's a real unison and understanding of values and what it means to wear the Leicestershire shirt and wear that gold fox on your chest. So for me, I'm really proud, not just the academy, but the women's, the pathway, first team, all of them together are really making a huge difference for the club. And I'll give you a little bit of an insight. Last night I was at a dinner here of where one of the cabinet, a senior person in UK politics, was here delivering a speech, and she opened up by sort of saying how proud she was of where Leicestershire currently sits on top of the table. So they're not just talking about it in Leicestershire, they're talking about it in government. So for me, they're kind of winning signs of where Leicestershire was and where we are now, and actually where we can be in future.
In your first interview back in 2020, you described the challenge ahead as like turning an oil tanker around in stormy seas. 5 years on, 5 months left to go. How do you feel about that analogy now? And what point did you start to feel that the tide may have turned?
Yeah, wow, what a great research. And I remain true to those comments. This was, I probably even add, it was an oil tanker in stormy waters with great big icebergs all around it. So, and there was probably oil spills and everything, kind of thunderstorms. The worst you could imagine it was. the way it's turned around and continues to turn and still got some way to go, it is heading in the right direction now. We're away from the rocks, we're away from the icebergs. So we're on the right path. There's still a little bit of bubbly waters around us and we've got to navigate those. But, you know, that's down to the individuals that have contributed over the years, some no longer at the club, but have done their little bit. The board that we've got in place, John Thorpe, chairman, you know, some of the people that have joined the board, even recently, have been involved in the club previously. So all those people now, and you know, in a quote I gave the other day about, I'm just a conductor, it's the orchestra. All those individuals, I think if you listen to the orchestra, it would sound like something like Les Dawson playing the piano. Now it's getting there and you can hear the music starting to happen. So it's turning, continues to turn. Is it plain sailing, to use that analogy? Not yet, but it's definitely on that right trajectory, if you like.
You've spoken fondly about, of course, being a Leicester lad, your Leicester roots, of course your father's background as an umpire back in the day. How has the personal connection to not only the city but to the county, how has that shaped your journey and also your decision making whilst being CEO here?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm a Leicester lad, and that's really the reason why I'm here. My dad, you know, this is my hometown, and I wanted to give something back to try and help the club to get in the position that hopefully we're in now. It means a huge amount to me. And sometimes I have to try and divorce myself from being a fan because you've got to make cold hard decisions. But it means the world to me that where we are and what we've done. You know, in my career, I've had some amazing moments with my previous club at Huddersfield Town, getting to the Premier League, fabulous. You know, but winning the One Day Cup, I had my dad's tie in my pocket. Special occasions. So I'm delighted to have played my part in making that happen. I'm really proud for the lads as well. You know, they're professional sports people who want to succeed, and what we've got to do is help facilitate that. I'm chuffed for the supporters. Even just on the way here, somebody said to me, said, we were down here when you joined. I said, we're up here now. And that means a huge amount to me as a Leicester lad, and our Leicester people saying that. And if you go into the annals of the ECB and the corridors of power, when I joined, Leicestershire was probably a bit of a dirty word. Now, people sit up and take notice, and you know, actually, we're not a pushover. We're not that kind of club. We're actually a club that's quite pioneering, quite developing. So, yeah, I'm incredibly proud of where we are, and I'm proud of the people, of everybody that's contributed to get us where we are today.
You've spoken about 2023 a couple of times. Just talk to us a little bit about that day and your memories of it and what you'll think about it for the rest.
Yeah, very, very special day for Leicestershire. Yeah, we've won trophies in the past. And it'd been 14 years, I think, since we last won something. I think 2011 was the T20. So, and if you looked at the stats, that's one of the things I've always looked at. Our stats just showing gradual decline of the club. COVID came along, reset button, we've kind of done that now. I always wanted to win in the 5 years, always wanted to win something. And I made that perfectly clear. To actually win that piece of, was probably a couple of years ahead of where I wanted to be, but I would never say never. But I remember the day, and the day started special. All the staff met here, we got on the bus, got up to Trent Bridge, and then watched the game. And as we all know, it was awful. We were all thinking we'll be home by 2 o'clock. Job's done. And then the two Leicester lads, Sam and Harry, performed brilliantly in the middle of the crease, gave us a target that was to be protected. And then the lads came out and bowled, Chris Wright, Josh Shaw, Will Davis, you know, they all contributed. And that game was ebbing and flowing. And I was watching the scoreboard, and you saw Hampshire get over the run rate and the DLS sort of thing. You're thinking, oh, they're taking it away here. And then we'd get a wicket and it'd come back and it was nip and tuck and nip and tuck, and came down to those last 2 overs. And for Righty to bowl that over and then Josh to bowl the last over, kid that's come through the ranks, was incredibly special. And I've got photos that are probably not publishable on my phone that really demonstrate the celebration that we were having afterwards. And, you know, I met up with the lads at the hotel, had a great party, you know, drinking out the cup. And I got off the next day, I got off the train from Trent Bridge the next day, and I got off at Leicester train station and walked down here to pick up my car. And it was a beautiful day, and just the feeling, the elation that Leicestershire have won something. And if you look at our history, we've won a piece of silverware every decade for I think the past 6 decades, and we haven't won anything this decade. So I was glad to get that one under the belt and get that out of the way. But success breeds success. Winning is a habit, all those sort of things. And I think that was it. The lads believed in themselves, knew they could do it. And from that point, I think they've just kicked on. The lads have just gone from strength to strength. You know, there's no looking as sitting top of the table at the moment. There's no looking as being semi-finalists last year. You know, that's hard graft and belief. And there's a phrase that we used at Huddersfield Town, was no limits. These lads have got no limits. These lads can achieve whatever they want to achieve. And I was in the changing room this morning, and you just feel a real positive vibe within there, and a vibe that they want to do right by themselves, but by Leicestershire as well. And that for me is priceless. So yeah, the One Day Cup was brilliant, but I'm certain there's more to come from this club.
2 more for you. Firstly, as you prepare to hand over in come October, what advice would you be giving to your successor when they come here to Leicestershire?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, you know, I wear the battle scars of the past 5 years, and it's been incredibly tough. But what we've created and what we are creating is a long-term legacy for Leicestershire County Cricket Club. I think where maybe Leicestershire have struggled in years gone by is they've had a vision with the chief exec and chair and the board, and it's changed. Almost you change the board, you change the chief exec, and the whole thing changes. So there's no continuity. I think what we've got now is we've written a chapter, and my advice for that successor would be to evolve the chapter. We've got a very strong board in place. They're going to be here, obviously, when I depart in October. They're going to carry that on. So it's important we select the right individual that gets what Leicestershire is about, gets the vision, gets what we're trying to do, and can build on the foundations that we've put in place, and hopefully do bigger and better things. So it's not revolution, it's evolution where we've got to get to, because the lads are doing a brilliant job. We've got a great vision for the plan of the ground. You know, there's a couple of things that we want to do before I disappear, but it is about that baby steps to carry on. And Leicestershire in 5 years time from now will, I think, be even stronger and actually a real powerhouse in cricket. Yeah, we're not a test ground, we know that, but actually can be really, really strong. So I think it's exciting for them. 100 money's coming in, it's going to help, it's going to accelerate. I think it's a great opportunity for somebody, but make sure it evolves, doesn't reinvent the wheel.
5 months is still a long time, still a lot to be done in those 5 months before you depart. Of course, everything's been great on the pitch, but what's your final message, you know, before the next 5 months to the fans out there?
Yeah, I think they've got to come out and support this club. And that's not just this year, that's next year. You've got the T20 campaign coming up. So, you know, I've always sort of said Leicestershire needs supporters. It needs people to come and back this club. It needs businesses to back this club. You know, we're not, we don't have wealthy owners, or we haven't got 50,000 people that generate the incomes that we want. So it's really tough. We haven't got right now the facilities to generate income outside of cricket, and that's what we've got to develop. So what this club needs right here, right now, is people to come and back it, come and support it, buy a ticket for the T20, you know, buy a membership, you know, sponsor a player if you're a business. It needs that, and that's what it. If it gets that, it will continue to kick on. And what we're seeing is some green shoots. I like the colour green, obviously, but we're seeing some green shoots here at the club now. And I actually think, you know, if the city of Leicester really get behind it, and we are a sporting city, you've got a great team in Leicester City, great team in Tigers, great team in Riders, you've got the racecourse, you've got the Speedway, I could go on. You know, the hockey club, all those elements, but all those sports clubs need support, and the support has got to come from the fans wanting it to be successful and backing it. The only way it gets successful is having people behind it that really support it, that are very positive, even when times are tough, is being positive behind your team, and we're in it together. I've always said that. Anybody that sits in the in any of the stands here at Grace Road is part of the fabric of the club, and we want them to be part of the journey, and we want them to really support their team. Toxicity, negativity just bring the whole lot down. What we've got to have is a team that's passionate. They'll do the business on the field if we back them, and that's what we've done.
Wonderful. Sean, thank you very much.
Pleasure.